Okay, this video is going to be long and it's going to be a talking head, so no offense taken if you want to go do something else with your life. This is going to be a 6-month review of my channel. I've had it for 6 months. I also cut my hair, but that's the disclaimer. It's going to be long. I've got my outlaw here, and I'm just going to go through lessons learned best I can. So here we go. Yeah, I decided sort of February that I would start a YouTube channel. I'm not totally new to YouTube. I've been doing it in some form or another, not with the expectation of growing my channel since probably 2009, maybe 2010, maybe. Yeah, I had a phase where when I worked at a production company, me and another PA would do sketches. I really enjoyed that, but obviously, time ends things eventually. But this was my first actually like giving it a college try. I kind of felt like I was too late to the party, but now that I'm doing it, I don't feel that way. Didn't have a good guess of what this channel was going to be. I knew I wanted it to be in filmmaking, in television, and something about maybe the writing or the critical aspects of it, but I didn't have a good guess, which was disappointing. But I ended up shooting a bunch of stuff right for when my channel to come out. It was all garbage. It was all terrible. And so I just kept trying stuff. I'm sitting at about 147 subscribers, which I think for me is pretty solid, considering I don't really use social media very much at all. And I even when I was working on that TV show last year, I think maybe I interact with 150 people in a day. In a meaningful way, definitely not. So if the fact that 147 people have subscribed, it's definitely more than people I talk to. I almost assume most of you guys that have subscribed aren't people I know personally, because I already have the conversations I have on my channel with people in real life, and so I don't see most of those people being willing to double dip on talking about that stuff with me anyway. Yeah, but I launched it to zero fanfare. I kept an open mind. I was like, I have a pattern. I have an established relationship with finding things along the way. That's kind of how I write. The finding it along the way seems to be the best way for me and mine to work. So I was okay with this YouTube channel kind of being garbage for a while, and it still mostly is. Yeah, I got a light bulb in the first couple weeks that if I stayed up all night and watched the new Formula One season on Netflix, maybe I could get ahead of the press and get a little bit of notice that way. And it worked. It didn't work every time I did that, because I've pretty much done that every Thursday since then, where I have a spreadsheet and I pick what I think is going to be a noticeable movie or TV show, and then after learning my lesson on a couple of videos, that negative reviews create a lot of backlash, that I would only pick positive stuff I expected to do well. And so I watched a bunch of stuff that I just didn't review because I didn't want to get yelled at. But by that time I had realized I'm not a critic anyway, not in the sense that people are looking to critics for stuff, because I would rather do stuff. And so, I don't subscribe to the notion that critics are the enemy of art, but I don't necessarily consider myself a critic first. And so that's fine. And so I kept trying stuff out. I've also taken a lot of stuff off my channel, just because if it didn't work and it did badly, like it made people upset. But especially if it didn't get any notice at all, I just cut the fat. I have a bunch of YouTube shorts I need to get rid of for that reason right now. So pretty much anything I've put out since May has, anything between March and May is pretty much gone by now. As I'm looking at it, I did a bunch of reviews, mixed results. The Star Trek one, when Strange New Worlds came out, I thought that was a pretty good review. Huge Star Trek fan base obviously interacted with me. Mostly didn't like what I had to say. That's fine. This version of this sort of Star Trek universe that they're doing the last few years has less than zero appeal to me anyway. I would almost rather watch the Orville, honestly. So I learned my lesson though. So I put out a Star Trek Strange New Worlds episode 1 video, and then the next day I put out a review of the Pentaveret, where it was a bait and switch, where I just said Pentaveret sucked, watch Teenage Bounty Hunters instead. That made people mad. It did quite well on my channel because everybody yelled at me, or everybody argued with me, rightly so. I mean, I get why. I've changed the title and I've muted it and published it a few times now. It's public now just because whatever. I'm owning that mistake. Yeah, but if you put bad out into YouTube and it gets noticed, it gets amplified and thrown back in your face. That's new. That's a new idea for me because I was never a comments person. I think I've commented on less than a dozen videos ever on YouTube or anywhere. I mean, I was on Twitter for a while, but I realized Twitter just brings out my worst instincts, so I got off Twitter. But I just don't comment on stuff because it's not a thing I do. And so I'm still learning the etiquette and the norms of what the comment section is, because I was always warned it's a pretty vicious, salty place. And obviously that's not always the case, but especially, stuff that I'm doing where I'm sort of critically doing a point of view where obviously there's a different point of view that exists too. Boy, it gets interesting. Not a fan. Were it up to me, I would have no comment section, but I respect it for what it is. And obviously, if I'm going to put myself on camera and put myself out there, you do have the right to speak your opinion about the fact that I've done that. I acknowledge that. When I moderate, pretty much anything YouTube flags, I'll delete, because obviously you might as well. And if it seems to be hateful and it fell through YouTube, YouTube didn't catch it, I'll delete it. Or if you're picking on somebody else in the comments, I'll delete that. But if you're attacking me, I put myself out there. For the sake of being open to the conversation. Although I don't like to have people do personal attacks on me, if anything else, it's an opportunity for the rest of the comments to see that and have you own that. And it's really up to everybody else in the comments that's reading that on whether or not they're judging you. But obviously, I wouldn't choose to personally attack anyone. I don't think that's healthy, but I understand what the internet is. So since about July, I've sort of pivoted from just doing reviews on whatever's out to what can we learn from this, like having the thing that's out also be like a filmmaking lesson, which I think is really useful. It's obviously an evergreen idea where you can do to infinity, but more importantly, it's making me use my critical thinking brain biscuits, and I found it very satisfying. Same reason why it's hard to finish a script, it's hard to finish a movie, because you have to love it like a child, like your own child, for it to have any chance at all. The fact that I'm having to, especially in the last sort of like 5 weeks, I'm taking whatever the thing that's out and having to really critically deal with it in my brain and try to figure out what the lesson is in it. Very satisfying, very invigorating, very keeping me sharp. Obviously, I've been messing with the lighting setups and the camera setups because I like that too. But yeah, the sort of the brain part of it is very satisfying. The reason I had long hair was the sort of that weekend where everything got shut down catastrophically from COVID in March of 2020 was the last week we were shooting a road documentary, and so basically, we finished on that Monday, and then that Tuesday was basically where you had to shelter at home. And I cut my hair right before that, and so I just thought it was a funny gag that I would just have long hair for the entirety of COVID. Ultimately became not worth it, and the gag wasn't worth having long hair over, and so I've cut my hair finally. I just thought it was a good point to cut my hair on the 6-month anniversary of the channel, but yeah. So I pretty much stayed away from YouTube Shorts until recently because I dabbled in them and found them to be cumbersome. And even the way I do it, which is I just cut up my videos and put them in a vertical format and throw them out there, I'm doing them without any critical thinking about it, just because I don't any of the YouTube channels that I follow they've tried Shorts, or they haven't tried Shorts, and they have come to the conclusion that they're not useful. So Makes sense to me. Having said that, I've been trying shorts recently, and I think most of you guys have subscribed through shorts, ironically. But again, like the comment section, I think I've watched 5 shorts in my entire life that have not been mine. It's just not, it's not how I work, and that's fine. I interact with YouTube differently anyway. I'm not a broad audience member. I use it for research. If I need to learn how to work my camera, if I need to learn how to do this, YouTube is my for dummies, is my, camera for dummies kind of thing. I appreciate it for that. Obviously, I didn't want my channel to be that. I had thought about it. I had some gear stuff on my channel for a while. I did a whole week of reviewing like grip heads, but what a waste of a week. And what I realized is, I think fellow filmmaker is the one who clued me into this. I watch a lot of tech channels. I watch a lot of computer building channels, and that makes sense because if you're monetizing your advertising, you can put in like the CPU Amazon affiliate link, and somebody can go click on it and buy it, and you'll get a cut, blah, blah, blah. But because filmmaking is such a niche, and also the equipment is, even though it's cheaper every day, it's still very, very, very expensive. There's just, according to at least fellow filmmaker and I've heard other people talk about it too, there's just no money in it. So if you're like DSLR video shooter, or if you're, and Gerald Undone, where you're a giant channel to begin with, gear reviews make sense because you have a big enough audience and people send you stuff and all this stuff that there seems to be money in it. But starting out, I can't see, that seems like I'd be spending a lot of money on gear at first, and that seems like a waste of time. If you're an advertiser and you do something in film and video and you want to send me gear, please. I love gear. I'm all about gear. Some of my most satisfying experiences have been different ways of rigging my camera. A lot of times I'll just take my camera completely de-rigged, lay it on a table, and go, how can I make this better? It's it's like a mental exercise that I find really satisfying, kind of like Legos. But as far as my channel, obviously that seems to, the gear aspect seems to obviously be in direct conflict with story is king anyway. So, yeah. So I've deleted a lot of stuff on my channel now that I'm looking at it. There's a lot of stuff I've deleted. The most successful thing on my channel has happened recently. It was, I reacted to the first 2 episodes of The Rehearsal with Nathan Fielder. And it's done well, and it's continuing to do well. It's doing like astonishingly well. But again, negative take equals negative reactions. So I'm just getting hammered in the comments on that one particularly. I waffled about taking it down, but I decided it's at almost 25,000 views right now, which is, again, for 143 or whatever. What am I at? 147 subscribers. 25,000 is solid. I waffled about taking it down because I had a lot of sleepless nights about how the fact that I seem to be genuinely upsetting a huge amount of people, and that really like shook me. I felt better about it. I ultimately made the decision to watch the rest of it, and then after watching the rest of it, made the decision to do a video on the rest of that show, The Rehearsal. And I think I did a better job of contextualizing my point of view. The tone of it, and then the tone of the comments, has been vastly different than the other one, so that's nice. And it's doing well too. It's not doing nearly as well as the other one, but that's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm just glad I was able to predict that if I go back to this well, it works. I won't be going back to the well again because that seems cynical and unnecessary, but the angry tone in the comments is just, it's hard to want to engage in, because especially the ones that get under the comments that get under your skin. I've done stand-up comedy. I've been a writer for a very long time, so I have a rebuttal, but I realized that, and I learned this from Twitter, your rebuttal is what kills you. Whatever they say is of no consequence, but how you respond to it could be a career ender, could escalate it to a place where all of a sudden you've doxed yourself, or you've put yourself in jeopardy. So, I try to stay clean in the comments, just because it's not worth the, you know, it's the same idea as a street fight. Like, sure, you can throw a punch, but you don't know if it's the streets, the rules of the streets. You don't know how it's going to go. They might have a knife, they might have a gun, they might be 5 of them that beat the tar out of you. You just don't know how it's going to go. And so I kind of treat the comments like that, where I'm like, have a good day. You know, I disagree with you. I don't say that. I don't usually say I disagree with you, unless they're being respectful. And then I'll be like, okay, I think because you've opened it respectfully in the comments, I can interact with you respectfully too. But yeah, I'd say the past like 5 weeks, I think I've figured out what this channel is, which is a thing that's out, filmmaking lesson based on it. I think that's what my channel is, and I don't really see anybody else doing it, and that is a really heartening, positive sign for me, which means because once I started doing reviews of stuff, I realized that I'll never get to the heights or the quality of polish of like The Critical Drinker is the guy who I watch constantly. Yeah, and so I don't need to copy him. That's not what I'm about anyway. He's doing his own thing. He's doing video essays on stuff. That's not me. I'd rather the message I'm trying to deliver while doing this is both, you know, the storytelling and the script is the most important thing, because everything else bends, except for sound, bends at the will of that. Yeah, it's just its story is the most important thing. The thing you remember about your favorite movies is the story, is the moment, is the feeling, is the characters. You know, it's not, oh my God, that T-Rex looks so cool. That's a part of it too, but it's how afraid you were when the T-Rex was bearing down on the car and it broke the window on the roof of the car, like the emotional experience. And so that comes in the writing. It gets enhanced in production, but it comes in the writing. And for some reason, a lot of people, I'm saying Hollywood, but a lot of people, I'd say probably half of all Hollywood, seem to discount the importance of the writing. And I don't understand why, because it seems obvious to me. And jumping off of that, I'm a big believer that any script has the capacity to be a 10 out of 10. It's just how long it takes to revise it to get it to that level. It really depends on every factor under the sun. Obviously, if you're a tremendously good screenwriter, taking your script from something to a 10 is going to probably be less effort than somebody who's written their first script ever. But it can be done with that first script too. You just got to know that you find the script in the revisions. The rewrite is what makes a script good. The initial idea is useful, but what actually makes the script the thing that is going to be satisfying once it becomes a movie is the rewrite, is fixing all the problems. Got preachy again. So let's read some comments. And I'm going to read it from that Nathan video that everybody was so upset about, because obviously, again, I make a point to not censor personal attacks on me unless they're actually inappropriate. But, and then if they get flagged by YouTube, or if they're hate speech, because again, this show addresses Judaism a few times, and there's been some people with some really concerning views on Judaism, especially in the comments. And I'm like, how is your universe allowed for that to happen? But that's fine. A lot of people just basically said, because Nathan Fielder is the bad guy, that's why the show works. I understand the thinking. I'm still of the opinion that he embarrasses these people, and that's worse. And he should know better, because he's so good at this. People disagree with me, that's fine. Somebody wrote, thanks for letting me know about the show and how great it is. I just watched the first episode and I couldn't stop laughing. Can't wait to watch them all. Awesome video. Okay. Yeah, good dig. Good dig. A few people have been like, good, you know, thanks for opening the conversation. And I respect that. You know, most of the comments lately haven't been as mean-spirited as the original comments were. Oh, the other thing is, I don't think regular people who haven't been on TV shows understand what a release form is. When you sign a release form, whether or not you read the release form, and he actually did this in his show, you're at the mercy of whatever they do. The release form basically says in there, by signing this, we're going to use your likeness however we please, and you can't sue us when we do. And so you know, you really do have to take your own stuff in your own hand, because it says in there, if you try to sue us, it'll at best go to mediation, because you've already signed a release form stating that you've basically waived your rights to your own editorial. I don't think people understand that. That's the case for all TV. I mean, everybody writes the release forms a little differently, but that's the case everywhere. I think this is a bad take. The whole point is that he's exposing people's willingness to be a part of a reality TV show at the expense of their own dignity. Again, that's what I'm getting to is if this was a reality show in the way we think of it, I agree, but specifically because of how the show was couched, I think it's the opposite. Nathan, watching this, in order to fully understand what I could have done differently, I must now become a YouTube television critic. I mean, it's in the tone of the show, so, you know, a gold star, I guess. The ending of this video is gold. Yeah, that's funny. You seem like a fun guy to be with. Well, let's see what JM, who told me that, what his channel looks like. This is the old stand-up psychology. As soon as they heckle you, if you bring them on stage, they don't have anything to say. JM has, to his credit, JM has videos. They're all Call of Duty Modern Warfare screen caps, but he put himself out there, so I can respect that. Good job, JM. I have a lot less respect for somebody who has a completely muted anonymous channel that is being a jerk, because you're upsetting people. So I'm hoping this is a satirical take, ... If it isn't, I hope you get the help you need. Thanks, Drew. I think the satire exists in the comments, but for the sake of seeing who you are. Oh, Drew has no videos. Okay. You know what, Drew? In my bad faith moment of reading that, I almost DM'd you and was like, hey, I'm in Austin. Do you have any good recs for a psychiatrist in Austin? I would really appreciate your opinion. But I decided that would be gross. So, here's a perfect one. YouTube was a mistake. People shouldn't be encouraged to humiliate themselves bloviating at a camera about the kind of knee-jerk, technically wrong, but strongly held for some reason, that was all dashed together, opinions we used to be smart enough to keep to ourselves until drunk. That was almost like a poem. That was almost like I don't even know what. Bloviating. You win. I don't know what bloviating is. Let's look before I look. Okay, so bloviating. I would assume blow is like belch. So bloviating is like masticate is chew. So bloviate would be like belching or vomiting. That's my guess. Let's look at bloviating. Talk at length, especially in an inflated or empty way. Oh, like a blowhard. Oh, interesting. In defense of talking at length, that video was like 4 or 5 minutes long, and this video is going to be much longer, but interesting. Very interesting. It's cool you understand the fundamental point of the show. I mean, the problem with text is really hard to deliver sarcasm, and so you have to know the person in order to inherently understand the sarcasm. To this credit, Liam Gill, who said it was cool, I think this is music. I think he does guitar. It looks like he does Blink-182 covers. All right. You might be cooler than me. I mean, if you're saying what's cool, you might be right. Now, what if this was a part, one word, of the show, and this was also staged? Now that would be a twist. This is one of those moments where I don't even know what the term is called, but it's when if you squish together 2 words, or if you take apart 2 words, they mean the opposite of their meaning. So apart means separate, but if this was a part, a segment of, so because you wrote a part wrong, you made it mean the opposite of what you meant. Yeah. This guy has everything wrong with his entire generation, just cannot have fun. What generation do you think I am? Am I a boomer? Am I a millennial? Like, what is the... I assume you think I'm about 19. That's the vibe I'm getting. So ML has a problem with my generation. ML has some very strange videos on his channel, and that's fine. I'm not going to even try to explain that. Dude, sorry to break it to you, but they're actors too. It's a TV show. Very well made, to be honest, but no way they're just random people. I addressed this in my second video. I think there's a very clear and obvious distinction between non-actors that he's doing this with and actors. And so that argument keeps coming up, and I just don't like now. This is an absolute brain rot take. Sure, that's fine. You were great in Train Spotting. Okay. That's it, the fact that you edited that sort of undercuts what you're trying to do. You're softer than soft serve man. You could also have said 10 ply if you're a Letterkenny fan. I'm sorry, man, but it sincerely seems you didn't get it. Ever heard of Andy Kaufman? This was the guy I brought up in my second thing. I think he meant Charlie Kaufman, because there was like that weekend where a bunch of people kept talking about Charlie Kaufman. But again, if he meant Andy Kaufman, he's right, because that guy was an absurdist. But just the vibe I got was he meant Charlie Kaufman. But for the sake of him saying Andy Kaufman, you're right. And I have a very similar opinion about Andy Kaufman as I do about Nathan Fielder, except Andy Kaufman, didn't really drag in people into his thing, but that's fine. I'm choosing to announce I gave this video a dislike. Sunglasses, smiley emoji. All right, Michael. So you're so proud. Let's look at your channel too. Does not have any content. 2017. I'm also checking when they joined, because there's some of these that have like 2022 joined, which means my take is they got kicked off of YouTube for saying stuff that's not appropriate, and they've joined basically anonymously to come back. Every time I find those people, I go ahead and block them. People are too soft. They will be fine. Relax. So that's an interesting statement. People are too soft, period. They will be fine. Relaxed. So if people are too soft, they won't be fine. So I can't relax. But if you're saying I'm the people that are too soft, then the they is a different group of people. So I think you meant to say, Matt, you're too soft. These other people will be fine because they're not as soft as you. But the way you wrote it, you're saying people are too soft, but these people that are inherently soft based on your own admission are fine, and I should relax. Congratulations on missing the point. This is one of those that I think had like an anonymous channel. Yeah, so one of those. 2008 though, so he hasn't been banned. Good for him. You almost get it. That's funny. Geez, you look like you're about to cry. Chill out, Voldemort. Yeah, so I looked at this guy when he said that, because I was like, well, that just seems like you're trying hard. And then I clicked on this guy's channel, and there's a penis on a thumb. There's an animated penis on one of the channel thumbnails, and so I'm good. If this guy's calling me Voldemort, I think I'm good. Go virtual signal somewhere else. I think that's an autocorrect. I think you meant virtue signal. Sure, I guess you could argue that what I was doing was virtue signaling. I was asking a question and explaining my opinion about things, but yes, I think based on the fact that it was a YouTube video and that is inherently virtual, I was virtually signaling something. Go virtual signal somewhere else. You watched my video. That was it. Yeah, so I wasn't even that bad. Short of that though, yeah, I think going forward, this channel is just going to be straight up like, here's something that's out. What can we learn as a filmmaking lesson from it? I would like for most of those lessons to be writing lessons, because I think that's more important. But I got no problem doing camera lessons or pacing. At some point, I'll do an editing lesson. I'm not an editor. I think I've ranted about this in this particular take, that I'm not an editor. But again, that's one of those things in film, especially film school movies. The pacing of films is absolute garbage, and so okay. So here's what I think about editing. and I think this really does separate regular movies from like film school badly paced movies. Is if you read the script in your head, you can time it out, and then the movie then has to time out the way you read it, the speed you read it in your head, and if it doesn't, you've done it wrong. I don't think that's a universal experience, but I think that's a good starting point, especially for heavy dialogue stuff, heavy dramatic stuff. If it times out in your head to be 45 seconds, and then the movie itself is 3 minutes long for that page, you need to cut it down. So especially sweeping landscapes, especially the morning routine stuff, the hitting the alarm clock, all that stuff, it needs to go away. So that's what I think about editing. As far as the technical ability to edit, I edit to the joke, and then short of that, I edit, and then when somebody watches it with me and they say it's too long, I cut it down, and that's about as good as I can offer. Yeah, I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic about the channel. I'm optimistic about things. I'm a little frustrated that it took me 6 months to really figure out my angle, my take, what the channel's actually going to be about. Just because I thought I was better than that, but I think the lesson there is just it takes as long as it takes, and if anything, I didn't even live up to the fake opinion of myself in my head, and that happens more than it doesn't. Yeah, I mean, to the 147 people that are subscribed and the dozens more that are, hanging on for the journey either way, thanks for being around. I appreciate it. As an opportunity for a conversation, I appreciate the fact that I can interact with somebody that doesn't live next door to me, and that's important to me. Secondly, I want to be, I care about this stuff. I care about movies, I care about TV, and I care about participating in it. And if you have the ambition to do the same, I think that's why I want to connect with you, because I care about this stuff. It's nice to find people who care about it too. When you're in film school, or when you're on a set, although that's different, you find people who inherently care about the stuff that you care about. But then when you go back out into the big bad world, you're back to this person works at a bank, this person works at McDonald's, this person cuts grass, and sort of, the farther away and the longer you're away from people who are in it with you, it melts you a little bit, because it's not a huge world. Obviously, a lot of people watch TV and film, and I appreciate that, because I do find that part of the culture. A lot less people make stuff, and I feel like that's too bad. And that, if you have the passion to make something, if you have the willingness to try to learn at least the initial stuff to try to make something, I encourage you to do it, because it is like no other art form, because it's so many art forms combined. It's painting, it's technical stuff, it's language, it's all these things. I find it incredibly satisfying, and the people I come across that also find it satisfying, there is a brotherhood, there's a connection, there's a relationship there inherent because of the love of the game. But it's not everyone, and that's fine. So thanks for sticking in for the adventure. If you watch this to the end, yeah, let's go ahead and do a check on the hair. It's it's not great. It's not as bad as I feared, but it's definitely not like yikes. I mean, there's a yikes factor. So I'll see you next time.